Super interesting setup today. We're doing a Mitsubishi Eclipse 4th gen. So this is something that I've done years and years ago, but I haven't ever done the set that has a projector in there. And this was done by another shop, another dude, for Elise. There she is. We're gonna talk about the story of these Eclipse lights, because one of the main things that happens when you build custom lights is you go into it blind. You don't really know what you're supposed to know, because why would you, right? And you're kind of just gonna go down a different rabbit hole maybe than you should, because it's the only one that you know exists. So we are gonna be asking all kinds of questions about how these lights started, why they look how they look, and some of the different changes that we're gonna make. And that is all with our friends Elise.
Hey, how we doing?
You got your Eclipse how long ago?
In 2019.
Okay, and you just wanted to do some of the headlights. So what was the first thing that happened when you started looking into it?
I saw an ad, because I've been wanting to do it for a long time, but I didn't know where to go. I didn't know who to talk to, because I don't know anyone with lights. And then on Instagram, it popped up an ad for Lighting Trendz, and I was like, that looks pretty. I like these lights. Let me go to them. And so I got the lights, but I realized I didn't know how to install them. And so I just looked up someone. I actually found a couple people on OfferUp. I got burned a few times. I put in a deposit, and they stopped talking to me.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. And then I found one person, the first person who said yes. So I was like, okay, great, someone. And I drove really far, and I ended up having to drive there like 5 times because of a bunch of problems. When
they actually did the work, did you have any input on how anything was going to be routed, or did you just kind of show them the parts? How did it get this way? It
was a good teamwork. I said like I wanted to do something cool, and again, I didn't know where to start, so I asked a lot of his advice, and he was like, you know, we could do something cool like this. So it was a team effort, and I said, yeah, he was good about like helping to make sure I was happy.
So we've got black paint that's in there, but that fuming, the little hazing on the inside of the lenses, at least didn't know that, which was not a bad thing. But how did that go?
It didn't get better, it got worse. So now we're here.
So I can try to do something and maybe get these at least moderately better than they are. But what did you use when you were cleaning them? She's whispered microfiber. So that's the right thing to use as far as the cloth itself. No like Windex or alcohol or anything like that?
No, I first just tried to brush off, and then I halfway through I was watching your video, and you said not to do what I was doing.
Don't touch,
yeah, and so I stopped.
That makes sense. So the cool thing is she didn't use rubbing alcohol. So we can potentially save these things, because if you use rubbing alcohol, it eats that coating that has that hazing in it. Now you can see a couple little wipe marks that are in there, but we'll see as I go. One of the things that sucks about getting lights done locally is that there's always a time limit. And so one of the issues that happened with these lenses is the lights were custom painted. Now a thing that kind of kills me, it makes me so sad for the dude that built these, is he didn't know that they were black plastic. And if you've been on this channel for very long, you know that Zep, it just eats the chrome off, and there's black underneath, and then it's done, it's painted, it's black, it's perfect, ready to go. No waiting for things to dry or cure or anything like that. But dude didn't know this. Later. Damn, dude, this is good tape. This adhesive on there is insane. Basically all we're gonna do now is just throw this thing in the bucket and see what happens.
I just didn't want to hold the camera too close.
Yeah, no worries. I blasted you good. That's so funny. I probably have it all over me too. The black of the plastic looks so much better than his paint. The nice thing about the degreaser, there's no fumes. There's nothing that you're trying to dry. So like you could just strip apart and then immediately stick it back in there after it's dry, and like you're done. Perfect paint. So these are actually factory lights, and let me know in the comments if you have either a 4G Eclipse or you know anybody that does. Like, how rare are these things for you? I'd never seen them. I made some lights for an Eclipse 10 plus years ago. They did not have a projector. They just had the big open like reflector housing with that weird little blue lens. But these things definitely have a really unique look, and I'm gonna show you the difference in my idea for our plan on these versus what we have here on the bench right now. Now, one of the main issues here was that this strip over time has started to experience some failure, which is super common with addressable LEDs. Doesn't look like we have any issues with these angel eyes, but I've got plans for them too.
Started out just like 1 LED, and then it turned to 4, and then it turned to getting to the very end of the strip. So it started pretty fast, but it was a slow
Slow degradation.
Yes.
There it is.
There's the word.
So here's the rings that are in there now. Now this has a acrylic cover, and the unfortunate thing, even though these things really do fan the light out and they make the little pixels look way cooler next to each other, problem is that they often have to be glued or held on in place by some sort of like a bead wire or something like that. Now just have little places, like there's a little gap right here in the ring so that it can be situated where the wires would be running out the bottom of this. But unfortunately you can kind of see stuff like that when it's mounted in the housing. So just a tip for anybody that wants to use these kind of ring covers like that, try to hide those gaps so that they're not as visible from the outside. But in our case, we're going to use a completely different ring. This is something from our dude Jay at Sinister Retrowerkz, and these have this nice cover where it's integrated in. It's actually kind of like the profile prism, that little like coating on the top, but it's a hard coating. It's not soft, and it looks super, super clean and consistent. And we've got 3 wires in, 3 wires out. So that is gonna make it to where our addressable setup is way easier to work with. That's the strip that's in there, and it's wrapped around in a way, it's very similar, like I've seen a lot of 350Z lights with these tubes on there. So we're gonna do a completely different look where we just wrap it along the bottom, and we're gonna do it until we get a really nice outcome where it just looks nice and clean running right there. So it's not gonna be too different, but we will have the new 80mm addressable rings there in the center. It'll just be a little bit more subtle. What do you think would look better? Should we keep this inside little reflector right here chrome? Because we could see it right here, probably a little bit better. Keep the chrome for extra reflection, or just ditch it all and keep a more black look.
We ditch it all.
Well, the cool thing is it, I believe, it very much looks like it's the same black plastic. So instead of using this as it sits right now, we'll just dip it in the Zep and post it on TikTok. All stripped.
The next day.
Permaseal. Now look, I actually had a bunch of permaseal that I found in the light that we'd already been messing with, not realizing that the original guy that modified these lights for Elise never actually pulled out that permaseal. So this housing right here has already been completely rid of all the permaseal. This one has not. So this is the original layout that was in there. That's the original rings and paint, all that stuff. So we are going to do to this light what I've already done to that light before we can reseal them, because I bought some brand new depot lights that have a perfectly fresh lens on them. We'll take this thing apart and then score just the lens off of it and add it over here to this guy so it looks all perfect. And the first thing I'm gonna do is take a look at, this is the bezel, and you can see it actually sits into place, not inside of the lens. There's not like any screw holes or anything to put it into the lens. So the lens will actually go on after the bezel does once I put it into place on that. Now this, however, has a good amount of damage to it on the back side, which is not good. We've got some, whatever was used to try to seal this up, it's definitely not going to cut it. I'm just kind of peeling everything off by hand right now. So one downside to working after somebody else is you're going to have all the little imperfections that come with their work, whatever that happened to have been, and then you are going to be now responsible for it. So let's just say I didn't realize what's about to happen before I actually do it, and it was kind of shocking. It might be looked at as it's my fault. Okay, there's nothing I can do to this strip to get it to be removed without damaging the paint that it's on top of. I know this because the paint was shot the same day that this tube was put on it, and even if it wasn't, there's no way that that tape is gonna bond really well to this bezel without it getting messed up when you remove it. That paint is gonna come up with the strip right now. If I'm amazing, I'll get off a couple pieces of the strip that won't take paint with it. And ultimately, it's just gonna kind of let go all at once. Here's another sad thing. The dude ran the JST connector right through the housing, and he just left a big giant hole there. And that was all just for the sake of being able to fit this big black plastic thing through, when he could have depinned it right there and made a much smaller hole, but he sure made it easy for him. Right, that strip is off. This is our residue. It actually didn't break off more than just this one little section of chrome. I don't have a super fine grit blasting media. I should have soda. I've got coal slag. It's very abrasive, very it's like etchy. It like kind of etches all of this stuff. So this does not look fantastic, and it will after it gets painted with some satin black. Nothing that looks bad. It's gonna look dope when it's done. But this is like the tragic thing. Look how good it could have looked. Now this has been stripped. It's been dipped in degreaser, and it's now going to have to go in here so that it matches this. But it was just kind of a test to see what would have happened if dude took these things straight out and just dipped them in that Zep very quickly. We saw how fast it dissolved. It was insane. They could have looked absolutely perfect in a nice gloss black finish, but that's not the way that this one went.
What do you think about this? I'm making a new TikTok right now where I show mounting the ring so that it'll fit and look all super perfect. But came out pretty good. Excited to share.
All right, so here are the first set of the addressable lights that I've done. Elise already had these. She had cool addressable stuff, but I never make addressable, so this has been kind of a challenge, not just for working with addressable, because I use very basic stuff. I used the Angel Eyes from Sinister. Those were awesome. And then we used the Flow Series tubes from Lighting Trendz. So those all just plugged in and played really nice. They're all powered by the BlueGhozt. And now we're gonna be able to hook up different functions on the car, such as like the parking light that'll turn on white, and then it can do the turn signal and do all sorts of stuff. And meanwhile, Elise can control everything with her phone. So she's modeling the phone app.
This sparkle is pretty, it's pretty crazy.
So lots of options playing with the Bluetooth stuff, but we want to be able to turn some cool things on as well. So we're going to use the extra features in the BlueGhozt, and that's going to just be something that we pick up later. So we'll revisit this. We'll go out to the Eclipse, shoot some cool video with Elise in LA, and I don't know, maybe have cool things in the background. We'll see.